Thank you guys for joining us again for another Flare Forward experience as we break down 10 reasons to keep Flare Network on your radar. This is going to be very insightful, we hope. Well, you want to take it away, my brother?
Yes, of course. Welcome, guys. So I think that one of the main reasons that I find Flare very attractive is that it's a great place to learn about DeFi, about blockchain, and it has a very low barrier to entry. Like with $10, you can buy enough Flare that you can play around comprehensively in the DeFi environment, and that cannot be said about many other tokens. So I think that if anything, just putting a little bit of money here and then testing things out, learning, making mistakes, and then learning from that experience is going to make you a much better blockchain user, no matter what chain you are, because the principles are the same. It's just a different platform, but you can learn on Flare and then go play on Ethereum, Sui, XRP, whatever chain you want.
100%, man. Like, that's exactly how I started, right? With Songbird, and only I was earning like pennies a day. But man, I loved it. I was like, oh, look, I made a couple pennies. That's pretty good on a couple bucks. And so that's exactly how I started. I could not have gotten into DeFi using something like Uniswap or some those items because the cost and gas fees, would you really need to start with a couple $100, it felt like, versus on Flare, I could start with just five. Well, actually, it was Songbird originally.
So I think that Flare has everything on the DeFi side. Like you have borrowing and lending, you have liquidity pools, like full range or concentrated liquidity pools. You have futures, you have perpetuals. There's a trading bot called Raindex. So there's so many things that you can dive in. And there's so many tools that, like I said before, once you master them, you can go to any blockchain and use their system with very little like learning. You just need to know where the buttons are and what each tab does, but it's the same principles. So this is a great place to have a base that then you can go anywhere else. And coming back to the price part, there was a futures contracts for XRP just released. I don't know if it was Coinbase, but they released it, and then the minimum there it's I think 500 XRP. So that's
Yeah,
over $1,000. In Flare, you can do it with 1,000 Flare, which is what, like $15? So there is a
yeah.
definitely difference there. They have enshrined oracles for trustworthy data. So what that means is that you have 100 data providers that are pushing data. So manipulating data on Flare, it's almost impossible because you would need to manipulate the whole chain. And what this means is that if you take a loan, then you are not worried that there's going to be a price manipulations candle that might liquidate you. A lot of the centralized exchanges, that's what they do. They make a big wick, liquidate everybody, and then it pushes forward, like up or down, doesn't matter. So with Flare, you can be for sure that the data that it's being pushed and the data that the app relying on is going to be trustworthy. And I think that that's extremely important.
I don't think you can't even express how important this is. I mean, we had a great talk with the FTSO provider, and in the early days, there was 30 of them or so, and a couple of them tried to get together and manipulate pricing and Flare, and so it's been attempted. So the thing is there's police and there's so many of them that it's much more difficult or almost impossible to manipulate the price on Flare, whereas like we've seen in the hyperliquid situation where it only takes a small consensus because you only have a handful of providers to manipulate a price, whether good or bad, however you feel about it. It shows that price manipulation can and will happen. But the difference in a decentralized form like Flare and a lot of variables, not variables necessarily, as a lot of providers keep all of the stuff in check. So I don't know that this has got enough value. I mean, we could talk about this for hours, but this is super important.
Yeah, that thing with the hyperliquid, even though that, I mean, I
It was
understand
good.
why they did it because they were like they scammed the scammer, which was great. But at the same time, it shows that that price data or price feed can be easily manipulated, and in my eyes, that doesn't make me trust it as much.
Well, I mean, somebody just got to hack them, and all of a sudden, boom, get two or three of those guys, and it's over. Like,
Correct. So Flare is allowing to bridge from EVM, which is the Ethereum virtual machine chains, with non-smart contracts like Bitcoin and XRP. So what that does is that your capital, you have more capital to work all of a sudden. So if I can bridge my XRP to Flare, all of a sudden I have so much more capital that I can work with, and that gets me very, very excited about it.
100%. I mean, it's creating, for products that we love. Like, I mean, you got people, Bitcoin's not going anywhere, the reserves, everything else. So it's like buying up gold. You want that asset, but you don't want to just hold it. Like, I mean, what good is it just to sit on it? It goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down, but it's really not working for you. So being able to take all that capital from that asset that is you feel comfortable investing in, such as a blue chip item that's not going to go anywhere, you want to be able to leverage that so that you can make your money work for you. And that's where this comes into play for sure.
I mean, I recently took a loan against my Flare to buy a controller for my drone. And like that's just a little example of what this could be, because if I had enough capital, at some point I could take a loan against my assets and buy a house or buy a car, and then from my DeFi profits, I could pay back that loan. So that's very empowering because then I don't have to ask anyone's permission to have access to capital. So then all of a sudden your Bitcoin or your XRP becomes so much more useful because then that capital becomes available to create yield. So you get your assets that are working for you, and that's very important.
Not even a house. Let's say you want to buy more Bitcoin. Like, you're like, man, I know Bitcoin's going to go up. Let me buy some more Bitcoin. Well, you can use your Bitcoin to buy more Bitcoin because you're leveraging it and then pay it back and keep the difference as it went up. So just it incredibly opens up the ability to take your money and leverage it to do other things.
Correct. And then it also allows me to trade my Bitcoin or my XRP in a completely decentralized way. So the next item is the growing DeFi ecosystem. The TVL this week, we are in May 1st, if you're watching in the future, grew by, I don't even know, I think it was like a 50,
90 million,
60%.
90 million in new stable coin added to the total capital last I checked. I think it's over that now.
Yeah, so that it's good for the chain. It creates more trust. It becomes harder to manipulate the liquidity pools and everything. So yeah, this is incredibly exciting how fast the DeFi ecosystem is growing on Flare. So they have features like the trusted execution environments and protocol managed wallets, which will allow you to manage your capital from Flare. So let's say that you have some Bitcoin from Flare, you're going to be able to move that Bitcoin or your XRP. So then you have a one-stop shop for all the other chains. And I think that that's going to be super exciting. One of the things that Hugo was saying is that at some point you could take a loan on Flare without leaving the Bitcoin network. And I think that that's incredible. Like if you could leave your Bitcoin or your XRP on the XRPL and then take advantage of that on Flare networks, that's super, super exciting.
Yes, I mean, for me, I look at it slightly different as a great advancement in user experience, right? Because to move, like you just said, to move Bitcoin from one wallet to another, for us, it's nothing. But for a new user, you've got to go to that wallet, copy that address, go back to the other wallet, or scan the QR code. I mean, and then click, go through signatures and sign and do all kinds of other stuff. Whereas, the TEEs and protocol managed wallets will create a more streamlined and what I would like to think of as a common user experience in web 2 on a web 3 platform. So you are going to only interact with maybe one dApp to be able to do three different things. Not leave that dApp, but control what happened on the Bitcoin network or control what happened on the Ethereum network from one spot, not doing anything else, which is just going to be an incredible user experience when you want to be able to do stuff at speed too.
For sure. So the question is, will bridges even be needed in the near future? One of the things that makes me the most excited and bullish on Flare is how much energy and time they have taken into making this product, I don't know if perfect, but as good as possible. So F assets, they have been in the pipeline for a while, and they tried something on Songbird, and they found out deficiencies in the system. So they went back to the drawing board and then they try again. So instead of just rushing a product just to beat the competition, they're making sure that they measure 5, 10, 15, 50 times. It doesn't matter. And you cut once. And I think that when there's money involved, that is priceless.
I mean, the thing I could say is it all starts with Hugo, right? And coming from his industry and TradFi and his core roots, right? In our interview, he hit it the nail on the head. When you work with other people's money, you have a fiduciary responsibility to be as responsible as possible with that money. And so his previous experience is really showing through on the product they are developing, where it's about the responsibility of the developer to create as safe an environment as possible. So at the end of the day, like unless it's a catastrophic or complete cluster, they have taken everything and every step possible to make it safe, even if it's less, even if it's inconvenient. They don't care about being inconvenienced. They don't care about making it difficult on themselves. They care about how safe is it for our users and their money, because they don't want to see people come into the network and then all of a sudden losing their entire life savings. That's critically important to me.
Absolutely. The other thing, and coming back to what you said about the interviews with Hugo, I mean, I really appreciate how open, like most of the Flare members, like both from Flare the company, but also the other like users on X, most of them are super approachable. If you have a question, they will jump in and get out of their way to help you. And I've seen Hugo, which is the CEO of an important company, comment on random people's posts and answering. And I think that that makes it makes me feel like I'm being part of a community instead of just a product. And I really appreciate that about this.
I mean, in one of our interviews, like he said, he'll have, he's got 600 channels of questions coming at him. And so his time is very limited on where he spends. So to see him spend that time on X with the community should resonate very highly with the community and its overall environment. Like you said, we were interview with Daniel, and one of the things kind of pointed out was like, we're a part of the product. We are not the product, is how it kind of feels. Versus some of the other things, you are the product of their product, right? So you're not you're just a consumer, whereas we feel this is more of an engaged community, so you're actually a part of the future and the development. So I love that.
So coming back to the learning part of Flare, it's super fast and it's super cheap. So for me, like having this DeFi journey that I've had with Flare, like sometimes I do 30 or 50 transactions in a day, every day. So on ETH, that would have cost me thousands and thousands of dollars to experiment. Like here, like in other chains, if a failed transaction, you still pay the gas. So here, like if you the transaction failed for whatever reason and you paid 0.0001 flare, it doesn't matter. Like I'm not affected by that, and I'm not afraid to test things and then send it to one wallet and then oh that didn't work, so I send it back and I swap again. It's just like a great place to learn, to experiment. Do not ape in. Like by absolutely no means I'm telling you to go all in, but literally you can put in 10, 15, 20, $50, whatever number you want, and those $10 will allow you to do 10 different things and you still have the capital. It's just like with $10 you can experiment most of the protocols on Flare, and that cannot be said about most chains.
Prime example, right now at this current time of this video, I'm experimenting with the Raindex, the V2. We're on V2 right now, which is very rough, right? It's very rough to work with, but to get experience with using it, I'm putting $5 in Jewel and $5 in Rat Flare, and built a trading bot with it. So $10, I've got a trading bot going on. I'm learning. That could have been $2.50 because they're cheap. It could have been $1, right? It didn't even have to be $10. I could have built it, experimented with it, and seen how it worked. And then once I was comfortable with it, add more money to it. So super low cost to really play with it and learn 100%.
One thing you have to understand is that this journey is going to cost you. Like you're going to make mistakes, and mistakes are going to cost you. And I don't think there's a way around it. Like that's the price of learning. But I mean, I'd rather make mistakes with $10 than with hundreds of thousands. So
Is it
it's
Isn't that the theory of life? She gives you the test first and the lesson later.
For sure. For sure.
Uh,
So, yeah, I think that this is a great place to experiment, to learn. You can learn to bridge. You can do borrowing and lending. You can do liquidity pools, futures, perpetuals, trading bots. There's so many things that you can test out without being stressed about losing a lot of money. So
oh,
once you
check
do
this out.
this, once we have you have enough capital, you will have the experience to actually make better financial choices. Because one thing we have to understand is that DeFi empowers users, but does not force them to make better financial decisions. Like if you make a bad decision, it doesn't matter what tool you're using; it's a bad decision. So I think that that's a very important thing to consider. And then lastly, this is one of my favorite ones. So we were talking about Daniel that we interviewed the other day. 5 months ago, he bridged two Ethereums and like $2,000 USDC and put it in Kinetic. And since then, his flare backs have tripled. So
Oh,
basically, what he did is he bridged assets that he already owns. And then now he's being able to invest in a completely new layer one chain without deploying new capital. So for me, that's very important because at some point, like we said before, you're going to have XRP. So just by bridging XRP, you're going to have more flare. And then what happens is that I get to keep my XRP when if I wanted to, like if I have XRP and I wanted to join, I don't know, Ethereum, I would need to decide either I get more capital and buy Ethereum and then my capital is fragmented, or I need to sell my XRP and buy Ethereum. So Flare has that great thing that if you bridge the assets that you already own, you can invest in a new chain without deploying new capital, and then you get to keep the assets that you already have. And I think that that's extremely powerful and should not be underestimated. Awesome, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys soon.